The S25 Ultra was just benchmarked, and the numbers look really, really strong. The numbers look phenomenal. They apparently beat the Apple Bionic A18 Pro CPU that is found in the iPhone 16 Pro and Pro Max. Let me see if I have the numbers here for you. So here is the iPhone. It says iPhone 17.2, but that's the iPhone 16 on iOS 17.2. So it's not next year's iPhone. This is the current iPhone on the right side on Geekbench 6, right? So these are the benchmark scores for the iPhone 16 Pro on the right side, and the OnePlus device on the left side. Now this is with Geekbench 6, iPhone 16 Pro on the right, OnePlus 13 on the left, and we just got numbers for the S25 Ultra on the same benchmark, on the same Geekbench 6 benchmark application test. Lord, that's a lot of words. Okay, so you see the scores there. So OnePlus got a score of 3,200 single core and over 10,000 on the multi-core score. Now look at the iPhone 16 Pro. Scored a little better in single core, over 3,400 points. But look at that multi-core score. Just under 8,500, so 8,492. Now let's pull up the S25 Ultra. Now the device on the left, the OnePlus 13, has this new Snapdragon 8 Gen 4 that's going to be released next month. Next month is the new Snapdragon 8 Gen 4. It's basically going to be the flagship CPU that's going to be in a large majority of the flagship Android devices. So you're going to see OnePlus rocking this. You're going to see Samsung rocking this. You're going to see Xiaomi rocking this. If you're not familiar, Xiaomi is the Samsung equivalent in China. It runs Android. Now, not all of the flagship Android devices run Qualcomm Snapdragon CPUs, and we'll get into that news in just a second because we have some news on the Pixel 10 and Pixel 11 CPU. I know that's right. The Pixel 9 just came out, but we already have news on the CPU that's going to be powering this device in the future. So let's get into the S25 Ultra that has the new Snapdragon 8 Gen 4 that's going to be released next month, right? And so is the new OnePlus 13 going to be released next month. So for a large majority of the iPhone 16 series, its Android counterpart, the Android flagship CPU is going to be this new Snapdragon 8 Gen 4. Currently, the 8 Gen 3 is the CPU that's powering a majority of the Android flagship devices, but that's getting phased out. New one's getting unveiled next month. Let's look at this S25 Ultra. So, see the scores there? 3,200 for the OnePlus 13 single core, 10,000 for the OnePlus 13 multi-core score. So 32 and 10,000. And then iPhone 16 Pro, 3,400, 8,400, right? 34, 84. Now, let's see the S25 Ultra. Whoa. So, the S25 Ultra, that is the unreleased device. We've seen many models of this S25 Ultra. We've seen what it looks like. It looks exactly like an S24 Plus, just bigger. And it will have an S Pen. I love that design. I think it's going to be a phenomenal design. They're going to round the corner. So if you're familiar with the S24 Ultra right now, it's typically regarded in most circles, tech circles, as the best Android phone, the flagship Android phone, the best of the best. Now, cameras, I thought they took a step back this year. Hopefully they take a step forward next year. Now, it will have the same camera sensors as the S24 Ultra. I'm talking about the S25 Ultra, but the design is going to look much nicer. Not a big bummer that it's going to have the same cameras, because as you know, Google famously used a 12 megapixel sensor for like 4 or 5 years and just absolutely mastered that sensor. So it's not a like when you first hear that, it's not particularly good news, but always think in the back of your mind, well, that's not always bad news because they can always fine-tune it. Let's just hope they fine-tune it this year. Anyways, getting back to the CPU, you see a single core score of just over 3,000, which is a little under the OnePlus 13 and the iPhone 16 Pro, and then scores a 9,700 on the multi-core score. Now, that's less than the OnePlus 13, but that's more than the iPhone 16 Pro and Pro Max. So let's see real quick. Let's go back to the other numbers. So 3,000 for the S25 Ultra, and then you get 3,200 for the OnePlus 13 and 3,400 for the iPhone 16 Pro. So the iPhone 16 Pro, when only one core is running, has a stronger one core when only one is running. Remember, these got I think these are all 8 cores. But when they're all running together, I think of it like a car, like a V8 engine, right? So the car is the phone, the engine is the CPU. So when you only got one cylinder running in a car, kind of shows you how much power per cylinder it can crank out. But I always like to look at multi-core. That means when you're running that V8 engine at like 7,000 RPM and it's really revving up, that's when you know how much power you got. Because how many times are you just running off of one core? Now, I know you are when your phone is just sitting here next to you, it's on one core, typically an efficiency core, but you get the idea. When you're up and running, when you're doing all sorts of stuff on your phone, that's when everything gets involved and gets running. So I look at the multi-core. That means all 8 cores are cranking out power. So both the OnePlus 13 and iPhone 16 Pro beat the new S25 Ultra in early benchmark scores. But in multi-core score, the S25 Ultra beats the iPhone 16 Pro and comes up short versus the OnePlus 13. This OnePlus 13 looks to be a badass device. OnePlus has always had this. OnePlus has always been able to squeeze out a little extra power over its competition. Now, first time ever, I think it's beaten an iPhone. But this is good news. Good news. Android fans can rejoice and finally talk shit to everybody online, especially on Reddit and in YouTube comments and all sorts of stuff. So we'll definitely have fun this upcoming year. And it looks like for the years to come. Now, I'm not going to say long years, 10 years from now, but I think in the next, definitely in this upcoming year, and then maybe the year after that, maybe a third year, I think these Snapdragon CPUs are going to outperform Apple. I don't know long term, but short term, it looks like the next couple years we'll have some bragging rights when it comes to Snapdragon CPUs versus the Apple versus their counterpart, the Apple A18 Bionic series.